Hello everyone, my name's Julie and I'm from Julie Loses. Welcome to another installment of my video diary highlighting my adventures on a present weight loss journey. I wanted to record some stuff just to let you know how things are going this week. I had a weigh-in on Tuesday, and I had talked in my previous video about how I was concerned about the scale and how it had affected my mood, and I'm happy to report that I did register a loss on my official weigh-in of 1.2 pounds. According to MyFitnessPal, which is where I have logged my weight from basically the top of the scale, I've lost over 44 pounds. So almost 45 pounds. I am very excited about that. Continued loss is a great thing. And I think I lost about 3 pounds last week, which was very high. I think it's more than 1%, more than 2% actually of my body weight. And that's fairly high for a weekly loss. 1.2 is pretty good in my book, so I'm happy about that. Let's see, what else is going on? Yeah, I had the weigh-in. I then went to look for bikes. I decided to not go swimming on Tuesday, but I decided that in lieu of that I would go check out bicycles at a local bike shop in my area. I have been wanting a bike for a really long time. I have been inspired by several other bloggers and just bikes in general. I'm trying to think back to exactly when the idea of getting a bike occurred to me. I think it was I was having brunch with my boyfriend and two of our friends at a brewery down in Seattle, and when we were walking back to our car, there was a truck parked next to us with a couple of road bikes in the back. And I remember thinking one of the road bikes was really hot, and I really liked the design of it, and I took a picture of it because I liked it so much. And then I spent a little while looking at bikes and thinking about bike riding and what that meant, and it kind of became a low-level desire at some point. And then once I really started getting into this weight loss thing, the idea of riding a bike for fitness grew and grew, and I had decided at some point, I had said, okay, well, I want to ride a bike, but I had a bike that I had looked at that I thought was pretty hot, but it was pretty expensive, and I thought, well, maybe at the end of the program that will be a reward for myself. I will buy myself a bike. Miss Impatient. Along the way, at some point I had changed my mind, and I thought, well, I still want to be able to ride a bike while I'm on the program, so maybe I will make it a reward for completing phase 1 of the program. Well, yeah, then they added 4 weeks to the end of my phase 1, and it just started ramping up, and usually when I get into a really good mood, I start to make or ponder larger purchases, which is probably a little disordered, but I will try not to go overboard. I have a history of having sort of a pseudo-manic phase and going out and buying all kinds of music equipment, drum set, things like that, and I don't really use them too much. But the bike is something I've been thinking about for over 5 months now, I think, and I think it was high time that I get moving. I had gone to a bike shop to look around at bikes, I think in October, and I didn't feel comfortable. I told the guy that I wanted to wait until I had lost some more weight, and you know, he was very obliging. They hadn't got their 2014 models in. He said I might want to wait a little bit anyway. So I decided to wait on it, and then the 2014 models came out, and then I found some models that I thought I would really like, and it's just been building and building. And Tuesday, I decided, hey, well, actually before Tuesday, but Tuesday was the day when I went to a local bike shop and said, hey, I would like to buy a bike, so let's see what you have. Unfortunately, this bike shop didn't have anything in my size for me to look at. I went in thinking a hybrid bike, which is basically most of them are road bikes, but they've got flat bars at this point. Most of the higher level ones, they can range from anything from, like, they're not quite beach cruiser, they're not mountain bikes, but then they're not drop bar road bikes either. Hence the hybrid designation. They can kind of do a lot of different things. And my primary reason for wanting to get a bike is we've got a lot of bike trails in the Seattle area, and they're very beautiful, and I have walked on a trail that people use to cycle regularly, and I thought, man, it would be so much fun to come down here and just ride, and I would eventually like to get good enough so that I can ride. There's a full circuit around using a lot of the bike trails around Lake Washington, and I think it's something like 54 miles, or I mean, it might be longer than that if I don't use any real, like, surface streets and try to focus on the bike trails themselves. But that's a big goal, and I would love to be able to do that, and I would need to work up to it, obviously, but that's what I was thinking, and that's where they kind of steered me towards. And the only thing they had in my size, now let me say, I'm 5'2". I'm also like almost 230, so I have short arms and short legs, but they're all stubby, and you know, my reach is bad, my lower back is bad, my butt hurts when I sit on a bike, and it's a bad scene. Let me also go back. Historically, I've always liked bicycling. When I was a kid, I remember Christmases where I would get a bike for Christmas or for a birthday or something like that. I remember my first bike had red tassels on it, and I have a little bit of nerve damage when I smile. You can see down here, my lip, that is a result of when I was about 7, jumping a curb on the cul-de-sac I grew up on my little bike and falling on my face and busting my lip open. And then I have cracked, I've given myself a fracture on my arm from falling off a bike when I was in 7th or 8th grade. And, you know, I haven't had a whole lot of luck with bikes. The last bike I purchased, I was in my really early 20s. I was living in Glendale, California. And I got basically a cruiser bike that I used just to ride around. And I didn't use it as much as I wanted to, but I used it more than I thought I would. So, I think that's at my dad's house now, collecting dust, or one of my brothers sold it or something like that. But I didn't come up here with a bike, and Seattle is a city of bicycling, and the infrastructure around here really promotes cycling, and so it's perfect. It's perfect, and I can use it for fitness. So bike riding is a little scary for me, but it's something that I've always enjoyed and want to do more of. And they put me on, well, I'll get back to my story about Tuesday, sorry. The bike shop rep, all he had in stock was, they also rent bikes. And he had a 3-year-old Renter base level hybrid. It was a, let's see if I can remember, it was a Cannondale Giant 5 with an aluminum frame, and he set it up for me, got the the seat height right, and I went out, got a little helmet, and put it on outside and rode around. They have this parking lot in the back that's not very well traveled in terms of, or there's not a lot of traffic in terms of other cars, so I was able to tool around there, and it was a hybrid, so it had flat bar, and it was more upright stance, and gosh, I loved the feeling of, you know, going at speed. However, it hurt my butt so much. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. My ass hurts. It was so painful. That seat was so painful. I couldn't stay on the bike for more than 5 minutes because it was hellish on the behind, and it was a little disconcerting, but I went online later that night and realized that, okay, you know, I can get different seats. There are ways around it. I can get a cushy seat that will work for me when I'm doing little rides to get acquainted. It's not going to stop me. I'm not going to let myself get butt hurt and then stop riding. No, that's not an excuse. So they didn't have anything for me to get, and I didn't really like their the inventory of things that they were going to order. I didn't feel comfortable not being able to ride something and then buy it. So I thanked the guy. I told him I was going to look around at some other stores, but if I had decided to pursue that particular brand or that particular model, that I would give him a call back. And then Wednesday, I had a training appointment at 11, and it was my big racquetball day. So I prepared myself. I was going to go play racquetball with my trainer, which I've never done before. And the big thing about racquetball, the biggest impression it made on me is that those racquetball courts are super cool, but it's really hard to hear anything because they're so echoey. Like, she will be talking to me, and I will just hear this cacophony of sound, and it's really difficult for me to make out exactly, a lot of the time I was just smiling and nodding and sweating and breathing heavy because I didn't really know what she was telling me to do. So I'd have to really focus and get quiet. There's also some really cool sounds. There's this really crazy whooshing sounds that you can make when you hit the ball sometimes, because it hits a certain acoustical area in the room, and it goes whoo. It's just a really cool sound, and I enjoyed myself. I got hit with the ball a couple times. There were some times where, I would see the ball coming at me, but it's not in a place where I could get, so I would go like this. I would like hide myself until it went past. And there was a lot of laughter, and it's definitely something, up there with basketball. It's just fun, gets my heart rate going up pretty fast, and it definitely gets me sweating, and it doesn't feel like a workout. So that's going to be something that while I'm working with this trainer, I think we'll do that on our Fun Wednesdays, and I'll get the most out of it. I don't have anyone to play racquetball with other than this trainer, and I don't really feel comfortable going in by myself and hitting a ball around, but maybe eventually I'll find someone who likes to just hit a ball around a court with no real, attention to rules or points or anything like that. It's just fun to run around with the ball. So I got sweaty from my racquetball playing, and I had just had breakfast before, so I decided that I'm not going to eat lunch right away. I'm just going to go to the bike shop. There's another bike shop about probably 10 to 15 miles north of the gym, and if they didn't have anything, I would go back down closer to the gym, maybe get some lunch, and then go to a bike shop that was closer, which was the original bike shop I went to back in October to talk to the guy. So I went to the bike shop. This one was in Woodinville, which is a small enclave in northeast east of the East Side Seattle area. There's a lot of wineries and breweries up there. That's what it's known for. It's wineries. The Chateau Saint Michel is up there with some others that I don't drink wine, so I don't really know them at all. Went in, and was helped out by a couple of guys. One of them was more of a mechanic, so he kind of shoved me off to the other guy who was more knowledgeable about the bike models themselves. And wouldn't you know it, they had the exact bike that I have been looking at for so many months, drooling over, posting its picture as a possible reward. It was the Specialized 2014 Vita Comp Carbon. It was like a matte black frame with teal highlights. It's pretty expensive. It was about $1,850. The model that they had on the floor was a medium-sized frame, which was too big for me. But I got to see it in person, which was a step in the right direction. And gosh, it was gorgeous. And I'm not ashamed to admit, you know, I've read all kinds of things about the most important thing about getting a bike is the fit and making sure you're going to ride it. Those are the two things. Everything else is secondary. And I understand that. And in my head, I know that's true. But in my heart, I want something that looks aesthetically pleasing, because that's really what prompted this. Was there something about this bike in the back of this truck I saw that really drew me to the design of it, and it got me thinking about riding. So, of course, I don't want an ugly bike. I want a bike that I'm going to be able to really, you know, call my own and be proud of and take care of and all that kind of stuff. So it was nice seeing that bike and seeing it in person. And the thing about it is it's an all carbon bike. Well, mostly carbon. It may have non-carbon handlebars or something like that. But that's why it's so expensive. It's this super light material. It's basically a performance road bike with a flat bar handlebar and some other small modifications that classify it as more of a hybrid, but the frame geometry is exactly the same as the Specialized line of road bikes for women. And I didn't get a chance to ride it because obviously it's a size too large. And but there were some other models, and he pulled out another Vita, which was a more base model Vita, more sport oriented. It had an aluminum frame, and we talked a little bit about the differences between aluminum frames and carbon frames, and I felt more comfortable with getting an aluminum frame because he talked about, you know, carbon frames, you don't really want to hook them up. He said, you know, hooking them up, if you want to commute and hook them up to like a, yeah, the word is eluding me right now, but it's something you hook a bike up to with a bike lock. I can't think of it. It's so silly. Anyway, so you don't want to hook it up to one of those all day because you don't know who's going to be, you know, messing around or hooking it up. They can get scratched kind of easily, and the frames are a lot more, I mean, they're strong and they're sturdy, but they're also delicate in a way that aluminum is a little more rumble-tumble. And I'm just imagining myself falling off a bike because I've done it before. I don't want to do it, but I'm imagining myself doing it, and I don't want to like wreck and then ruin an $1,850 bike because I wanted the pretty carbon bike. So I said, okay, well, let's look at some of the aluminum bikes. So he brought out this more base model hybrid, got that set up, and then I remembered from my previous conversation. I'm going really long into this, so if you don't want to hear about my bike stuff, that's totally okay. You can stop watching. But I'm going to talk about the bike stuff because I'm super excited about the bike stuff. So anyway, going back to October, I had talked to the guy about what my goals were, and he talked to me about the benefits of road bikes versus hybrids, and my big hang-up was that I didn't think I would feel comfortable on a road bike. Road bike has drop bar handlebars. So that means you're in a position where you're more bent over, and forgive me, my screen went to sleep again, so I had to type back in. You're more hunched over. It puts more, sort of, I don't know if it puts more pressure on your lower back, but that seemed to me like it would be a more complicated position for someone with lower back issues. And I had ridden a 10-speed before when I was younger, and I think naturally you feel more in control when you've got a flat bar handlebar and you're in a more upright position. And it just seemed to me like that would be better for me. But there were a couple of really good looking bikes up in there that were road bikes. And I knew that road bikes can be converted to have flat bar handlebars for less expense than converting a performance hybrid to drop bars after the fact. So there were options for me if I wanted to get a road bike. If the drop bar handles didn't work, I can convert them to flat bars for not a huge expense. I think it's like around $150 or something versus $250 plus for converting the other way around. So I had him bring down some other bikes. I had him bring down the Ruby, which is another blogger that I follow. She picked up a Ruby several years back. It's an all-carbon frame road bike. It's got good geometry, and it's definitely something I had been browsing or perusing. And he also brought down the Dolce, which is the aluminum version, basically, of the same thing. It's got the same geometry. It's just, it's slightly heavier, and it's got the, what I would say, more rugged aluminum style frame. And so I went and rode 3 different bikes. First bike I rode was the hybrid, the flat bar Vita, and again, ouch, my behind hurt. I mean, it had hurt from Tuesday, but when I got on it yesterday, it hurt my butt a lot, and it was uncomfortable. And we did a few, he went out with the Dolce, and I went on the hybrid Vita, and we kind of tooled around, and he was looking at the way I was riding it, and I was asking him questions about what should I be, thinking about, looking for. And then he's like, okay, so let's swap now. You got a feel for that bike, now let's swap to that. And this was me getting on a drop bar bike, the Dolce. This is the aluminum road bike. And I was super nervous, but I got on it, and I rode around, and wonder of wonders, it felt a lot better. Yeah. Something about being in a more tucked position took a lot of the pressure off of my sit bones and put them onto, I was feeling it more in my core area. I felt like I had to work harder at maintaining the position, and I felt a little less confident in my hand position, and it felt a lot thinner to me overall. I felt like I was on a thinner rail than a flat bar where you're feeling more control like this, and when you're on a drop down even a little bit, you're more like this, and it's a different position and a different feel. But I think just having my butt not be in constant pain was really nice, and I found myself going faster, which is scary for me at this point. But if I was going faster, it was like night and day, and I thought, wow, this road bike might be a thing. And it was really pretty. It was this light blue. It's almost the same color as my Mini Cooper, and I had an affinity with it pretty early on. I had actually eyeballed it and asked him about it. It was up top in the hardest position to get down from the wall. And then we went back and we swapped to the Ruby, which is the lighter, more high-endy version of the Dolce. And he said, you know, there were more quality components on the Ruby. The brakes were, you know, a little bit nicer. The gear stuff was a little bit nicer. I couldn't really notice a difference. I couldn't notice a real difference in the heft of the bike. And to me, the difference in cost was about, let's see here, it was about $800 difference in cost between the Dolce and between the Ruby. And I still at that point hadn't decided whether or not I wanted to have them do a conversion for a flat bar. But at some point, I decided that the Dolce was going to be mine, that I was going to get this bike, and let's make it happen. And we went around and we said, okay, what kind of accessories am I going to need? I'm going to need a helmet. I'm going to need a pump, and they throw in things like these little tools to get your tires off and get the tube out, and a pump. Did I say pump already? A pump, a little bag for under the seat. Did I say water bottle holder? One of those. And a rack for my car, which they actually had to order. And I walked out the door. I spent about $1,500 all told on everything out the door, but that was a lot less than I had intended or I had prepared myself to spend. You know, I had this $1,850 bike in my head when I went in, so coming in under that I think was a good thing, and I got myself a bike that I can use. I'm pretty sure I can use it forever. You know, I'm not going to turn into this racer. I think the most extravagant thing I can imagine myself doing is one of those multi-day rides. I mean, that would be awesome to do. I don't know if I'll ever do it, but it'll definitely get me on those 50 milers around the lake eventually. So I was able to bring it home. They're like, well, we can deliver it for you because, you know, I have a Mini Cooper. There's no way I'm getting the whole bike in the back of my Mini Cooper. But there's this little thing on, you know, most bikes nowadays called quick release. That means you can take the wheels off quickly and relatively easily. And so that's what we did. We were out in the parking lot and he showed me how to quick release off the front wheel, and then put it back on, and then he showed me how to quick release off the back wheel. But he said, and it's just the same thing going backwards, putting it back on. And I took a little video image of him doing these, but we got the frame and everything in the Mini just fine. Didn't scratch anything. It looked pretty easy to do. I got it home. I was super excited. Putting the back wheel on was hellish. I spent probably an hour trying to figure out how to put that back wheel back on. I finally did it out of sheer luck. There was no strategy behind it. It was just, I even called the guy asking, you know, maybe he could help me explain it over the phone, and that was utter disaster. But I did it because what I really wanted to do was ride around my block just a little bit, just to get a ride in. I had this app, Strava, that I had downloaded, which maps your bike progress. You can hook a heart rate monitor up to it, and there's a social aspect to it, so I was excited to just get something logged on there. And I did it. Before the sun went down, I was able to get on my bike. It was not pretty. Getting on and off bikes at this point is still a little uncomfortable for me, and that's something that only mileage is going to help, I think. I still have to go in and get the bike. I need to get the rack set up and mounted, and them teaching me how to put that on, and that'll happen either at the end of this week or early next week. And then I need to get a proper bike fit, which is included in the purchase price of the bike. And that's where they spend about an hour with you doing little tweaks to make sure that you're mechanically optimized, or the bike is mechanically optimized to work with your body. And they can do some fabrication changes. Sometimes they make things longer or shorter. That's something he looked at it. They didn't do a full fit. He suggested I ride it around a bit, take notes about how I'm feeling, and then when I'm ready to come back in, and they can spend the time doing that fit, and they'll do an adjustment again after that. So yeah, I rode around. I didn't fall. I did have a couple false starts in terms of getting on the bike. The key thing is I need to be either on a flat or going a little bit downhill when I'm getting on the bike and going, because getting on and going on an incline is not working for me just yet. But I'm excited. I can't wait to get the rack so I can drive it down to the flats, because my whole neighborhood is hills, like really steep grade hills, and I'm able to find a little bit of area that's got, you know, that's mostly flat, but not flat enough. So I'm excited to get that rack, go down to one of the east side bike trails, paved, you know, trails, and get some mileage in and see how many miles I can do and see how much more comfortable I can get on this bike. I went, and yesterday evening when I was recuperating, you know, I was kind of, my back was kind of sore, my butt was kind of sore. I was just kind of wrecked from the day because I hadn't done any stretching or anything like that, and plus like that hour spent trying to get that rear wheel on just didn't do wonders for my back either. So I just spent the time on my laptop looking at bike articles and bike accessories like bike computers and lights and sensors and all this fun stuff. It's this whole, it opens up this whole other world of possible expenditure. But I have kind of pared down a list of things that I absolutely need in the near term. And one of those things is not inexpensive, and they're bike shorts. Now, I never knew, I always thought that bike shorts were just, you know, bike shorts, that they were just like these really, they were like compression pants that were meant to, you know, be as small as possible and as revealing as possible. I had no idea that they actually had padding in the ass area that would help negate any pressure that's put on certain areas. And everything I was reading is that, hey, when you get on a bike, get cycle shorts. For goodness sakes, just get them. So I've found a couple of websites that offer bike shorts in my size, which is plus size. I think I would fit into a 2X at this point, which is, I'm like right on the cusp between 3X and 2X, so going down to a 2X I think would be good. Get those suckers on. You're not supposed to wear underwear with them. I am not going to go out in those alone. That is not happening yet. I'm going to wear them over some pants. I don't care. I think the important part is that you get the padding, and that that's the closest to the skin fabric that you're feeling. But apart from that, yeah, you will not see me in cycle shorts within the next 2 months. I promise you will not see me in cycle shorts by themselves within the next 2 months. We'll see what happens later on down the road. Let's see here. So yeah, Strava was really cool. That was the app that I used on my phone. I just started the record mechanism on the app, threw it in the little bag underneath the seat, and went riding. And it recorded all kinds of data, elevation data, GPS of where I was. It got my speed in there. If I had hooked up my heart rate monitor, it would have done my heart rate. you can put sensors for like cadence and stuff. I think it approximates cadence. I don't know how it does that, but maybe it's like an accelerometer type thing. But it was pretty cool to be able to post that and share it on my Facebook and Twitter feeds. And yeah, so I'm excited. Today I'm promised myself that I would go out for just a little ride. Similar, I did less than a mile yesterday. Probably do about the same today. Maybe I'll try to hit a full mile, but not go crazy. I got to ease into it, not overdo it. That's one of the more important things, is I don't want to hurt myself, and I don't want to hurt myself. I want to ride to my heart's content, but I know that I need to be a little bit careful about it at this point. I also need to take, there's a Cascade Bicycle Club in the Seattle area, and it's one of the United States' largest community bicycle clubs, and it's an advocacy group, and they do group rides, they do training, and I want to take advantage of the training aspect. They have a Back to Basics class for people who haven't ridden in a really long time and maybe aren't familiar with things like, you know, the traffic laws, or, you know, how to brake properly or how to gear properly. And I really need to learn some of that stuff. So their classes don't start until April. And I may take a private lesson just to get myself going, to feel more comfortable with that. Beyond that, everything's really good. The bike has become total... I'm really excited about the possibilities. I'm really thinking that this could be a big deal for me. It was funny, in the bike shop yesterday, as I was waiting, they were a little understaffed, so I spent a lot of time waiting for them to deal with some other customers, you know, more brief concerns. And they had a Bicycling magazine, and the cover article happened to be people who have lost weight using cycling. How timely. And so I was able to browse through and read some of their stories and how they did it and get some advice. And so, you know, I think this could be, you know, for lack of a better term, my sport. It's something I could really get into. Hope I can at some point convince my boyfriend to get a bike so we can ride together on the weekends, but I don't expect him to. It's not something he feels entirely comfortable with. So maybe I can find some friends eventually who are in the area who will like to bicycle with as well. But in the meantime, I'm going to be a solo warrior myself and see what happens. So I definitely appreciate you guys staying with me and watching this whole video. Something else I'm going to mention really briefly is this app that I stumbled upon called SuperBetter. It was designed by one of the McGonagall sisters, I think, and they I had been looking for an application to sort of gamify the weight loss and habit change experience, and this does that. Maybe not in precisely the way I want it to, but it's the closest thing I've been able to find that seemed interesting and customizable. So I gave that a shot this morning. I will probably record something more about that in the near future, so stay tuned for that. And I will post a photo of my new bike on my blog, so amble on over there. If you're watching on YouTube, go on over there to check out pictures of my new bike, and I promise to keep you guys updated on how I'm doing with that. So let's see what else. Oh, very quick, lastly, I'm to get measurements. My 15-week program measurements are going to be done tomorrow, and then I have an appointment with my physician next Wednesday to review those results and to talk about my progress. So I will have updates coming on all of those in that near future as well. So until next time, take care.